Hello everyone, my name is JBaker and this is my presentation on HR 1327, Never Forget the Heroes Act. Let us begin by discussing some significant numbers in relationship to the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001. 4 planes were hijacked, each with a different intended target. 2,977 deaths have been reported, with 2,753 of those deaths occurring in Lower Manhattan at the site of the World Trade Center. Of those deaths in Lower Manhattan, many first responders lost their lives that day, including 343 New York City firefighters, 23 New York City Police Department officers, and 37 Port Authority officers. This number continues to climb due to the public health impact that 9/11 has left on many first responders. I'm sure we can all visualize the smoke and dust clouds that were left over Lower Manhattan that day. Now imagine being in that smoke and dust cloud with no protective gear, trying to find the closest building to duck into to get out of the cloud. The cloud left over Lower Manhattan was filled with toxic chemicals, asbestos, pulverized cement, and other health hazards that many individuals inhaled. Due to the extensive exposure during the cleanup of the Twin Towers and not wearing the appropriate protective gear, many first responders have developed conditions which are directly related to the attacks on that day. Today, more than 42,000 people are struggling with diseases. Many physical and psychosocial conditions have been directly linked with 9/11, including asthma, obstructive pulmonary disease, post-traumatic stress disorder, and anxiety, to name a few. Over 60 different types of cancers have been directly linked to the toxins from 9/11 as well. Some of these individuals can no longer work, and many first responders have lost their lives in the years following 9/11 due to their illnesses directly related to the event. This leads to an enormous financial burden left on these individuals who risk their lives to save others. Help finally arrived 10 years later in 2011. President Obama signed the James Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act into law. The Zadroga Act includes the World Trade Center Health Program and the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund, which was reopened under this law, as it was closed in 2004 due to lack of funding. In 2015, the Zadroga Act expired and had to be reauthorized, which it was in December of that same year for an additional 90 years. As of March 2019, the World Trade Center Health Program has more than 95,000 individuals enrolled, and nearly 80% of those enrolled are first responders. Regarding the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund, it was not included within those 90 years, and it was only funded until 2020. Recent reports, however, brought forward by the Special Master of the Fund, state that funds would most likely run out before this time. This sets the need for the passage of Bill H.R. 1327, Never Forget the Heroes, permanent authorization of the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund Act. H.R. 1327 would allow funding through 2090 and allow claims to be filed until October of 2089 for those who qualify, including the thousands of first responders. By passing H.R. 1327, the Victim Compensation Fund would extend funding for as long as the World Trade Center Health Program and provide the full financial aid to those who are so deserving due to their heroic efforts they made that day in September of 2011. The video to the right, which you may or may not have seen already, is of Jon Stewart, who is an advocate for this issue in Congress, providing testimony last week. After giving his testimony, the House Judiciary Committee unanimously voted to extend the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. This means that the act will now go to the House for a full vote. H.R. 1327 was first introduced on February 22, 2019 by Representative Carolyn D. Maloney from New York. She was also responsible for the introduction of H.R. 847, the James Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act of 2010. The act has 323 total sponsors within the House, including Representative Mary Gay Scanlon from Pennsylvania, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York, and Representative Michael Burgess from Texas. The act also has 48 total sponsors within the Senate as well. This bill has those who support and some who oppose as well. Some of the major stakeholders include the first responders and survivors who would benefit from the additional funding. Their respective families would also benefit, as they have most likely been their main source of support emotionally and possibly financially. Healthcare staff members, including physicians, nurses, and social workers, who treat these first responders and survivors, would be interested in the bill passing so that their patients can receive the care they so deserve. Finally, those who work for the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund would be interested in the bill passing as well, so that they can have the additional funding necessary to distribute to this group of individuals. As far as those who oppose H.R. 1327, several members of Congress have voiced their concerns. They state that the $7.4 billion price tag was too much and that funding should not be permanent. They also state that this type of funding should be handled by the states rather than the federal government. Two interest groups that support the advancement of this legislation are the Uniformed Fire Officers Association and the Feel Good Foundation. The Uniformed Fire Officers Association is led by President and FDNY Battalion Chief James Jake LaMonda. He has frequently been seen alongside Jon Stewart addressing Congress about the need for additional funding for first responders and survivors of 9/11. He and the board from the Uniformed Fire Officers Association were instrumental when it came to the reauthorization of the James Zadroga Act in 2015 and are currently extremely active in lobbying for Bill H.R. 1327. Another interest group is the Feel Good Foundation, which is led by John Feel, founder and president. John is an Army veteran who served as a construction demolition expert while aiding the cleanup of Ground Zero. During Day 5 of cleanup, tragedy struck when 80,000 pounds of steel came loose from a pile and crushed John's left foot, which led to amputation. Through the hurdles he faced due to his physical condition, John established the Feel Good Foundation to help those with similar situations. He was the director of the Zadroga Act, and his lobbying efforts helped support the passage of said act. He can also be frequently seen alongside Jon Stewart advocating for the passage of this bill, H.R. 1327. Thousands of first responders from all across the country traveled to Lower Manhattan to help with the extensive cleanup of Ground Zero, and have now developed serious health conditions that are directly linked to 9/11. Through the passage of H.R. 1327, additional funds would be provided to the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund through the year 2090. These additional funds would provide first responders and survivors with the necessary financial support needed to treat their health conditions. Do you support or oppose Bill H.R. 1327? I would love to hear your answers in the comments. Thank you for listening.